Hey, what's up, y'all? I want to make another quick video. Today I have a concept that I've been thinking about again quite some time now, and the concept is how I was able to teach myself programming while working. I figured this would be a pretty interesting idea here because I think this is pretty applicable, just not even to programming, but overall just trying to budget time to learn something wherever it may be, and the kind of the tricks and tips that I used and learned over time while working a full-time job and finding time to teach myself how to learn something new. Before I begin, I got something actually I want to talk about, and that's I just bought this microphone arm on Amazon probably whenever I started this channel, probably about a month or so ago, a month and a half ago. It's already broken. So if the microphone slips down, sorry about that right off the bat. If you have any actually suggestions for like a low profile microphone arm that attaches to a desk, I'd love to see what you got there. All right, to start things off, give you guys a little bit of background is that again, I was working construction full time right after college, and I knew I wanted to learn how to do a software. I didn't quite have that much time. It was a traditional 9 to 5, which to lay down the foundation. I started at 9 and then ended at 5, but took me probably an hour to either drive to the job site or to the office directly, and then probably another hour home. So there was a lot of driving time, probably 2 hours, maybe three, depending on where the job site is. I'm out in California, Bay Area, so a lot of traffic here, especially during that time period, and was just really seeking time out to learn how to program and figure out where I could fit this in. As while I was on the job, it was pretty much there was pretty much no way I could bring a MacBook or a laptop up to a roof or a construction site to learn how to program. That just wasn't going to fly. So definitely was working a traditional kind of blue collar job that probably didn't allow me too much time to go and study. So wanted to lay out some of the ideas that I kind of had here. And so the first thing I did was I realized that right off the bat, I was having a hard time studying because originally I thought I could study at home. I would go home, shower because the job was pretty dirty, that kind of stuff, jump on my computer. But by the time I was home, I think a part of that was it helps me decompress already. Like being at home was kind of a relaxing time. I had my bed there, I had TV, a lot of distractions, right? Wanted to cook myself dinner. And that just wasn't right, really quite working out. I was having a hard time overcoming my own desires to just essentially be lazy and do nothing. So came up with this new plan, and this actually was inspired by my friend Charles that's actually now a footwear designer at Nike. Me and him used to be study partners, although studying didn't quite work out for me in college because I got terrible grades. But anyways, I was there with him at times. We would always go to the library. Very basic college students go to the library. And I figured that as an adult, I can revisit that, what I was doing. So what I ended up actually doing was, because most of the time I would end up in my day probably back at my office, I kind of had a home base library. And that was the place was out in Hayward, California, and the local college there was Cal State East Bay. So most of the time, I figured that I would stop going home right after work, mainly because I would be stuck in traffic anyways. Waste probably another extra hour of my time. I only lived probably 15 minutes away, out in Oakland, so was wasting a lot of time commuting anyways because of traffic hours trying to get home at 5. I would go directly to the library there, find a place to sit and just do probably about an hour or two of work every day, especially starting off. That was like the hard deadline that I had for myself. Basically was like, hey, no matter what, I'm going to come here and do 1 or 2 hours. So that turned out great because forcing myself to not go back to the house right after work was like it was like a refresh, especially since it forced me to grab some food very quickly, save time on cooking, and then along with that, I was able to if the best thing that this did for me was that I was able to save a lot of time from commuting, from eating, and then spending too much time getting freshened up. I would just bring outfits to Cal State East Bay. I'd probably still smell like construction or whatever it may be, but at least I had clean clothes. But I was there, get clean, have a quick bite there, grab a coffee, sit down, do 2 hours. And the absolute best thing that that did for me was not that I did all my studying time there, but it left me with ideas going back to the house that motivated me to go back, do what I need to do back at the house 2, 3 hours later and continue studying. That was absolutely the best thing ever. I'd leave the library with a thought process or a concept that I didn't quite get, go home and start teaching and revisiting that, and probably would force me to get another hour or two in. And so there was a lot of that was essentially my blueprint of what I did there for the first couple months to get the ball rolling for myself. Go to the library, get stuck on a topic, question that while I went home, and went back to the home during after the drive, and then continue to iterate back on that topic, just because I was like bugging me so bad that I didn't know what the heck was going on. After quite some time, I started getting really into it, right? Like, I'm dedicating so much time into it. I'm working, 9, 10 hour days or whatever it may be that day. Go to the local library. I'm spending 3, 4 hours, and at times I would get so into topics that I would just spend my rest of the time there. And that was really just a really rewarding part of my day. And shout out to Cal State East Bay, because I was definitely not a student there, but found a space that I can quietly blend in with the rest of the students. Another thing that I did was I was also on the road a lot. And so I used the exact same concept. When I was on the road on my construction site, I would Google, find the closest coffee or coffee shop, or preferably school library or community area that I could go to, and I'd go straight to those places before going home. I got really, really good at finding which libraries are public, which coffee shops are open up late in whatever area that I was in. And over time, I built up kind of a collection of places that I could go to study without interference or that kind of thing. So the second part that I want to talk about here is that I had a really interesting idea one day. So to visit how I basically learned programming, I focused on taking Codecademy right off the bat, because I was always recommended to read the book, The Eloquent JavaScript. Way too hard for me, but I read on a blog that Eloquent JavaScript and Codecademy's JavaScript class were actually intertwined. So it was kind of like an interactive class that followed that book, essentially. All the chapters line up exactly, or at least did during that time. So I was taking that, reading the book at the same time, and of course using YouTube to leverage some of that. I was trying to figure out ways that I could fit this in even more. And one thing that actually really helped me out was that I realized that during my job, it was a lot of solo work. I had a headphone in, walking job sites, that kind of stuff by myself, spending hours traveling, driving to from the job sites, back home, that kind of stuff. I would actually just find the Eloquent JavaScript book. I found it on YouTube. I found the chapters, like the Audible YouTube versions of it, and I would just play it in the headphones on the chapter that I was either going to study for later in that day or before, or from the previous day that I was kind of stuck on. So that actually helped me tremendously, because it forced me to not actually physically do programming, look at problems. It was me just listening onto how the problems, like clearly listening and having the ability to fast forward and reverse back into chapters if I needed to. And that really actually was like a huge catalyst for me, because I'd listen to a chapter, feel like maybe a light bulb clicked, and then just for the rest of the day be so eager to jump back onto a desk so I'll try to apply some of those concepts back on the Codecademy chapters. So I did that probably for about a year or so during my job. Of course, as I mentioned to you guys, I was a terrible learner. So part of this was just even learning how to learn things, just because I didn't know how to do that before. And my end goal was to get into the boot camp, because I realized how slow my progress was. So, I basically started over on the Codecademy class and read the Eloquent JavaScript chapters just 1 through 5, probably at least 3 or 4 times before I applied to the boot camp. I hope that helped you guys out. Of course, it was very difficult. I was very tired most of the days, working long hours, then trying to force myself to code. But I think overall, it was just having momentum, right? Like finding a way to sit down at a desk, being stuck on something, trying to figure out something else out new, and then letting that carry you into another time period to try to force yourself to sit back down onto a desk to try to keep on learning. And I felt like once I got the ball rolling, it became easier. I almost kind of got obsessed with the whole topic. I mean, I was like listening to the YouTube videos in the car, through the speakers. I was like had it in the headphones, listening to some lessons from Geeks for Geeks on how to solve certain problems. And so it was like my whole day was essentially, although I was working construction, my whole day was revolved around just learning JavaScript's chapters 1 to 5 over and over again, whether that was listening, driving, and of course, going to the library. And then lastly, or a coffee shop, or maybe, and lastly, carrying that momentum in, my personal curiosity of not learning it that quickly, and getting back to the house and having more motivation to try to learn something or get that extra hour in to pick up that topic. So yeah, I hope this helps a lot. I know there's a lot of folks out there that are in my shoes as well, that's working long days, and it's really hard to get in front of a computer to motivate yourself after we have life that moves along with you. So I know this is also probably not applicable for everybody, but I hope that you can take away some of the concepts here, be able to self-teach yourself programming or whatever it may be. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you have any topics that you want me to talk about, I'd gladly do so. If not, I'll talk to you guys later.